Bronny has been a huge topic of conversation for all hoop fans this year. When you look at his game, he's super athletic. He plays extremely hard, but we're going to get into detail about how he could get better, what strengths does he bring to the table, and maybe this can help you out as well because his freak athleticism is amazing to watch, but what's more important is understanding how to use it. But let's look at his high school film. To really understand Bronny, you have to look back at his high school days. Early on in his career, he was playing with NBA guys. He was playing with very high talent. He had to play a role to even get on the court, and he had been playing significant minutes since his freshman year of high school on the national scene, which really shows how talented he actually was. But looking at his senior year, he kind of developed as a role player, a guy that was going to hit shots pretty consistently, a guy that wasn't going to create his shot a ton, but play within a system and a role that really fit him as a guy who could score, but a guy who's not going to be ball dominant, a guy who's going to play off the ball, a guy when he gets going with his shooting would be really hard to stop his senior year, and a guy, of course, who played extremely hard defense. You could tell he was coached by a pro or somebody that understood roles, a guy that understood that he's probably, everybody can't be a primary scorer. But I think that's what kind of hurt him. When you're playing with so much talent, it's really hard to fill your own game out, be aggressive, build upon your skill set, and you could get caught up into being too much of a role player. In his situation, I think he got caught up in a little bit of that because he has everything you need to be a really good player who can play on the ball and make the right reads as a point guard or primary ball handler. He's a good passer, but he just doesn't look comfortable making those decisions. And even looking back at his McDonald's All-American game, you could see the talent was there. He was able to contribute significantly to his team. He had like 15 points coming off the bench, and this wasn't a normal McDonald's All-American game. These guys were playing extremely hard with NBA guys all on the court. It was very, very interesting to see how hard he competed, what his future role would look like as a guy who can make shots, as a guy who defends. He makes all the right plays, and even a situation like this, coming off screens, knocking shots down. Unfortunately, he picked a college that does not have a very well structured offense. He does not get these same looks as he did, in high school or even in the McDonald's All-American game. So I think that, made his college experience a lot harder. And that's why you don't see him doing the same things he did in the McDonald's All-American game. But as you can see, mechanically, he was sound. He is a coach's dream as far as intangibles, defense, understanding how to slide over to the corner. Very high IQ kid when it comes to overall team knowledge. One of the best things about him is that he's a great role player. One of the worst things about him is that he's not a good primary scorer. But he does have a lot of different strengths that make him an extremely valuable impact player. First, you got to start off with his defense. He's one of those players that can play on the ball defense great. Look at this separation the offensive player gets. He still comes back, knocks the ball out. His motor is absolutely elite on the floor. He's able to get blocks with his athleticism, very good foot quickness. So when I watch his game, you could definitely see how hard he plays. I call him the king of intangibles. He blocks out. Look at this right here as he's fighting through that screen there. He comes back. He's still fighting over screens. And look at him. And the guy who he's guarding is a very good athlete. Ends up just blocking the ball away from him. But I love how he fights through screens and continues to compete. His willingness to continue to compete, no matter if he get beat or not, is super impressive to me, especially as a young player. Most young players that are freshmen struggle to play on the ball and off the ball defense consistently. And then you pair that up with the intangibles that he has, the ability to box out bigger players, the ability to chase the ball, get rebounds, and make plays is something that I really see as impressive. Not only does he do that, he's very unselfish as a passer. He's not afraid to give the ball up to other people, sometimes to his detriment. He also shows the ability that he could be a really good shooter. His mechanics are very clean. He has the ability, as long as he knows what's coming up next, to make those shots consistently. And I think that even though he's not a good, shot creator, that he does have the ability. But there's some things that's definitely holding him back from being a more consistent offensive player. But looking deeply into his offensive struggles is something that he has to do to get to the NBA. Right here, this is just a bad decision. He decides to take a tough shot instead of pump faking, getting to the basket. He settles too much for as athletic as he is. And right here, he's open for one shot. Then he's wide open again at the mid-range, decides to pass on that shot, steps back, he's wide open again. And I think a lot of his struggles this year offensively is due to lack of confidence and his lack of shot creation. But you can see here, he's wide open, he doesn't get the ball. That's another problem with the USC offense. They do not share the ball very well and is not very structured. And then on a lot of these drives, he's always looking to pass instead of just finishing. And you can see that constantly whenever he has to make a decision to drive, he's overthinking it. He sometimes miss easy layups. And this is just stuff that he's got to improve on, including his shooting has to get better, has to get more confident. Now, a lot of people compare him to a Drew Holiday if you're a fan, but I'm telling you right now, Drew Holiday was an elite scorer. He reminds me a lot of a Cason Wallace, a guy who's going to defend. He plays really good on and off the ball defense. He has an elite motor. And you can see this here with him, blocking passes. He did a great job, defensively last year, rebounding the ball. Look at that closeout. But I really like his intensity. And that's something I see from Bronny as well. Those guys don't stop on plays. And they have a myriad of different strengths that make them so different. As far as defense, they can play on the ball, they can play off the ball, they understand team concepts within playing defense. Combine basketball IQ with extremely good athleticism, lateral movement, and the ability to understand complex defense. If you understand Cason's game, he's also a pretty good secondary playmaker, especially in college. He's not the guy you want creating all the offense, but he is a guy that can make some plays. When Bronny was starting as the point guard, he was averaging 4 to 5 assists a game, which is actually pretty good. And just like Bronny, they don't depend on touching the paint to make passes for other people. Both of them have pretty good vision, but they don't want to get deep inside the defense with their ball handling ability because honestly, they're not the best ball handlers, but they do have good vision and they're unselfish. Both struggle with creating their own shot. They both really don't look super comfortable being the primary ball handler at all times. But the fact that they both can play off the ball is definitely huge for them. And I think just like Bronny, they're much better off-ball players than they are on-ball players. Can he make a move and get downhill? Yes, but it's not the player you really want to be controlling the game the entire time. They're both high-impact players, and you can see that even with OKC. Cason is knocking down shots. He's defending well, and even though he only averaged 11 points a game in college, you saw that. You saw his impact. He's not the best scorer even now, and he is flourishing under playing with other capable guards where he can kind of play off of the star players are the primary ball handlers. Him and Shea are a really good combination in the backcourt because they both can defend. Cason could also help at times playmaking. I really like this comparison, and I think that if Bronny's able to consistently knock down shots and he gets more aggressive as an offensive player, the sky's the limit. He's going to be a valuable role player.